Okay, welcome to the visual prototyping session. In this session, we're going to look at what visual prototyping is, and then the 4 different types of visual prototyping, which are alpha prototyping, documentation prototyping, general template prototyping, and user interface prototyping. So what is visual prototyping? Visual prototyping, as the name suggests, according to Jones and Ritchie 2000, prototypes the aesthetics of a product. This could mean navigation, flow, images, text and media, anything that the user will be looking at and interacting with. In reference to our previous session when we looked at breadth, depth, look and interaction, the breadth and look of the project may be near completion, whereas the depth and interaction of the project may only need to be as much as needs to be tested visually. So then, alpha prototyping. Typically it's the first version of a prototype. It illustrates the format, navigation, content and graphics, and some users may have computer interactions in there. It's also known as the working prototype and is low fidelity. The documentation prototype models the completed user documentation, and it also illustrates the format, graphics and presentation of a particular project. The generic template prototype is used across multiple units to illustrate content, instructional strategies, media and setting. It also demonstrates measurement tools. The user interface prototype is something that we're looking at. It illustrates navigation and flow with, in this case, without the use of complete functionality. It's entirely up to you whether your prototype's completely functional or not. We're prototyping, don't forget, the entire product. User interface prototyping doesn't have complete functionality. This is also known as a mock-up prototype, and if you do a Google search for any of these, you'll come up with videos whereby people have conducted these prototyping sessions. Pause the video now and have a go at the quiz available on Moodle. Don't worry about the results, they don't count towards your assessment, but they're just a good learning tool for you to complete. On screen now is a summary table. Just tick the boxes that you think apply to the 4 different prototypes. In the next slide, we'll discuss the what I think based on the literature, and then obviously, and then in the activity, you'll be able to discuss these findings. On screen now is my summary that I think. The only document, for example, the only prototyping type that uses documentation is the documentation prototype. Alpha prototyping, generic template prototyping and user interface prototyping may not contain the documentation. They all look at format. In the activity, discuss whether you agree or disagree with the findings that I presented on the previous slide in activity 2 and explain your views. In summary, visual prototyping is used to assess the aesthetics and the standard of the product or interface. There are various different types of visual prototyping, each assessing a slightly different aspect of the aesthetics. Throughout, I've used a number of different sources. These are available here, and I advise you to go away, find them. Some are available on Moodle, and just briefly read them in order to engage, in order to gain an in-depth knowledge across the different areas of visual prototyping.